In a world where the paranormal meets the preposterous, where ghostly whispers echo through the abandoned arcades, and every creaky floorboard might just be a clue, two bravish souls dare to investigate the mysteries no one else will touch.
The Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators. They don't always get it right, but they always get it weird.
Hey there, mystery lovers and mischief makers. I'm Steve.
And I'm Dan, together with the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators, your guides through the weird, the wild, and the wonderfully unexplained.
Each week, we dive headfirst into bizarre tales, haunted happenings, and conspiracy theories so strange they'll make your nan's ghost stories sound like bedtime lullabies.
We're talking cursed vacuum cleaners, psychic pigeons, haunted theme parks, and maybe, just maybe, a few real clues along the way.
So grab your flashlights, your EMF detectors, and maybe a snack, because things are about to get weird.
This is the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators, where the only thing scarier than the truth is how much fun we're having finding it. Welcome to the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators. I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve.
And we've got yet another story and mystery of the unknown for you this week. And I believe we're travelling to London for this one. And here's a story that you yourself have found, Steve.
Yes, I actually did something I don't usually do, and I did at least 10 seconds of research for this. So you can, this is taking this one seriously. So, so tonight we're heading to Mayfair in the heart of London, to an elegant and expensive, and if the legends are true, most haunted houses in Britain. Welcome to 50 Berkeley Square. Nothing, Berkeley Square, nothing funny to say about Berkeley Square? No?
Well, hopefully it is a square, but most squares that I've visited don't tend to be very square. They just have the name square, and they're not very square.
They're often a lot more rectangle, aren't they? With a little field, a little park for posh people in the middle.
Yeah, but also with it being the most haunted house in Britain, how many places are? It's like as you know, I quite like visiting a pub. There are so many pubs across the UK that are the oldest pub in England or the oldest pub in the UK. Yeah. And nobody can prove which one actually is. And I think I visited 3, maybe 4 that all claim to be the oldest.
I honestly think we should put all the landlords in a room and get them to fight it out. And the winner is the oldest. Okay, anyway.
So maybe with this one, we can get all the ghosts from all the haunted buildings and get them to fight it out.
Put them all in one building. Exercise them all into one. Okay, so, right, this townhouse has been called the most haunted house in London. It's been investigated for at least 250 years of sightings. So, even going back to Victorian era, the paranormal investigators of the times, even members of Parliament have spoken about the horrors inside this building. So let's start with Thomas Myers in the late 1800s. So Myers moved into the attic after a broken engagement. Heartbroken, he became a recluse, sleeping during the day, pacing at night with a candle, muttering to himself. The locals say the house groaned with strange noises, and Myers became so infamous the council allegedly let him skip court because his house was too haunted. I mean, that's awesome.
So he didn't have to go to court because of haunting?
Because he was driven mad by his haunted house, but the council recognized it. It wasn't just like some guy saying, I've got a ghost. He was so crazy everybody believed it that he didn't have to go to court over it.
So if you're a listener and you're due to go to a court date soon, just tell them that your house is haunted.
Absolutely. I mean, he was just one who experienced the ghost. I mean, I don't know if he's still a ghost. I'm sure we'll find it out shortly. But the attic where he lived was apparently, one of the ghosts in there was a young woman who threw herself from the window after being abused by her uncle. Oh, we should put a trigger warning, shouldn't we? Trigger warning. we're going to be talking about things that let's talk about dead people anyway, so hopefully that trigger warning is unnecessary. Most ghosts happen because something nasty's happened anyhow. So no one's ever become a ghost because they had a happy life, have we? So, okay, forget the trigger warning. If you're listening, tough. No trigger warning. So after being abused by her uncle, she leapt from the attic window, and her ghost appears as a brown swirling mist, or sometimes a pale figure just standing there at the window of the attic. I mean, that's great. But Dan, have you got any stories about brown mist that you can tell us?
Brown mist?
Yeah.
Well, what type of brown mist are we talking? Because I could talk about trips to the lavatory.
That's actually what I was aiming for. I was hoping you were going to bring that up, but let's move away from brown mist now. That was.
And there are some embarrassing stories there, which I'm not going to share on the podcast about
especially
brown mist.
Not this early in a podcast, and especially not this early when we're sober in a podcast.
Yes.
Let's see. There was another story there. A little girl that was murdered. Trigger warning: murdered by a servant. We forgot that, didn't we? No trigger warning. There was a little girl who was murdered by a servant, and her ghost is said to haunt the attic also, accompanied by the scent of animals. Hang on, so we got animal dung and brown mist in there.
Yes.
No wonder the guy went mad living there. It sounds quite unpleasant.
So is 50 Berkeley Square, is it just a massive public toilet at this point? Or...
Well, the attic sounds like it. I mean, apparently there was a witness who described the building smelling like a zoo. I'm not sure how far Berkeley Square is from London Zoo, but potentially the wind could have been blown in that direction.
And also, if we're talking the era that you said, did you say 1800s? So
yes,
wouldn't that be around the time of people throwing stuff out the window?
I think London sewers probably were up and running before then, because I know it had quite an advanced sewer system. I think you're thinking more sort of Tudor era, that we were always told at school where everybody would throw the crap out the window at you.
Yeah.
But I still think there was pretty a lot of personal hygiene issues in London in the 1800s. I mean, like there are today, to be honest. Trigger warning. Somebody in London might going to get upset with that one.
Especially on the tube sometimes when you're sitting on there and somebody lifts their arm up to hold onto the rail and they haven't put any deodorant on. And all you've got is your nose is right in their armpit.
And well, I mean, luckily I'm quite tall, so I don't get that. Usually it's my armpit you're sniffing. Or not you personally, but somebody else is sniffing. I feel sorry for
a lovely
people...
armpit it is.
It is. Trigger warning, my armpits. I'm not going to show that. Okay. Do you know, this loft, this attic in Berkeley Square sounds amazing. I wonder if it can be hired out to stay overnight, because there's another story of a man who was locked in the attic and he was fed through a hole in the door until he went mad and died. So this attic is quite fascinating. Why do so many people do so many nasty things in this one place, this one attic in this whole house? It's definitely dramatic. Murder, mist and madness. That's what we should have called the episode.
Yes.
Murder, mist and madness. 50 Berkeley Square. Brown mist and animal dung.
Well, I've got a story here about 50 Berkeley Square, where a young army officer who was engaged to a daughter who lived in the house volunteered to spend the night in the haunted bedroom, which is in the attic. And if he needed assistance, he had to ring a bell twice. And they were only to come to him or his aid if he rang the bell twice. And the family decided to wait for the bell ringing just to see if there was any danger or anything. And bang on the stroke of midnight, the bell rang once. So they ignored it because it was just one ring of the bell, not two ringing of the bell. After a few minutes, the bell rang a second time so wildly that the family all raced up the stairs.
But they shouldn't have done, because it's more than twice.
Yeah, it was more than twice now. If it's ringing wildly.
Was it more than twice or just twice?
Well, he had to ring it twice.
Yeah, so he's rung it more than twice, so they should have ignored it. I would have done.
And
if that had been you ringing your bell, I'd have said, no, tough, he's running more than twice. I'm not going up there. There's obviously something really bad happening. He can stay up there on his own. Sorry, Dan, you're on your own there.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Love you too.
Twice, he said, twice. 15 times is not twice.
Yeah,
I can count, yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that because before the family could actually reach the bedroom, they heard a gunshot. When they got into the bedroom, the young man had killed himself from whatever horror he had seen within the room.
I mean, he should have rung the bell twice. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
But, I mean, seriously, if you were going to see something that horrific, would you want to tell people or just end your life? I mean, that's got to be pretty horrific if you got to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Was that Lord Littleton by any chance?
I haven't actually got I haven't got a name in this story that I'm looking out of it.
So I think that's Lord Littleton from 1872, who basically, fired his shotguns off, didn't survive it. No intruder, no explanation, just, it's quite sad. Again, the attic, it's just, but no one's actually told, as far as I can see, unless we haven't got there yet, there's no ghost of Lord Littleton yet.
No, but the only bit that I've got of what this horrific thing that people have seen, I've got a description here of it being a peculiarly repulsive kindred spirit described as a shapeless, slithering mass. So it's a repulsive spirit that is shapeless and slithering.
Okay.
So that's what it's been described as.
Yeah. So I went quiet there for a second, just trying to visualize it, because it definitely can't be mistaken for brown mist or a young girl or a person standing by the window or whatever the other ones. So that's it. And again, very unusual that we hear things described as a slithering mass supernaturally. I would say that was more cryptid than supernatural.
Definitely
said, or even alien. Then.
Yeah. But also, with it being shapeless and slithering, to me, slithering conjures up an image of a snake or something like that. But then shapeless, I would be like, oh, it's sort of ghostly and you can't really tell what it is. So to have those two descriptors sort of conflict in my mind a little bit, because slithering would say to me it's some sort of snake beast type thing. But then shapeless to me would be like a ghost that doesn't have a form. So it wouldn't necessarily be slithering. It would be like floating. But that's how my mind has interpreted that.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite fascinating. It's so different to most of the other legends and myths and stories we've heard. So that's okay. Did it say who actually described that one?
It just says from several people.
Okay. Again, this is something we don't often hear as well, and that's multiple sightings of the same thing. It's usually just a story that one person spread. But so if several people have said the same thing, maybe there's something there. It definitely sounds a bit more. I like it. I always like it when more than one person says that they saw something, especially if it's independent. Let's have a look what else we got there. Let's move on. So apparently that was 1872 that happened there with Lord Littleton. 1879, there was a maid who spent one night in the attic and she was found the next morning completely insane, and she later died in an asylum, which is quite good. So it's insanity. Okay, so this is 3 people so far have gone mad there. At least 3 people have gone mad in that attic so far. Potentially 4, including the person who was locked in there with just a hole in the door. 1887, 2 sailors from HMS Penelope stayed overnight. One died fleeing the house, and the others claimed he saw Myers' ghost chasing him. Okay.
And then we've got, and then with the 2 sailors, it then goes in about a police officer where one of the sailors managed to run past the strange figure, escaped into the street, where he then fainted on the front door of the front step of the house, where he was found by a police officer who revived him. Together, the police officer and the sailor entered the house, but it was too late to save the other sailor, who was found in the haunted chamber, dead, with his eyes wide open in terror.
I mean, do you know what? It must be really bad for 2 sailors to share the same room in a place, then have a policeman, and they actually went to a policeman back in the 1887, because who knows what the policeman would have arrested them for back then. Different days, different times. and then to find somebody dead again. What would you say? You've killed the person you've gone to sleep with. Oh, sorry, you've slept in the same room with, as far as what the police would be concerned, I'm sure, in 1887. So you've murdered them, and then you claim it's the haunted house. Isn't that a great way of actually murdering somebody you don't like? You book for example, a stay in a haunted house with a friend who you got all the intention of murdering, and then you kill them, and then the next day faint on the step, and claim the ghost did it.
Well, now I'm a little bit worried because you have said that the future of this podcast will have us going and traveling and staying in haunted places. So now I'm just now you've said that, I'm now a little bit worried about these future trips of going away.
It's amazing what ideas history can give you. They do say you got to learn from history.
Yes.
Sorry, Dan.
Well, I'm just going to make sure that I'm well protected when we do go on one of these haunted stayovers.
Oh, dear. I like this place. This $50. Apparently, it's actually an office now, so it's not actually a residential building. But there hasn't been any official sighting since it turned into an office, apart from strange lights in the attic windows. And others feel a kind of psychic static when touching the brickwork. And you know what? Brickwork, stonework, it's all in the bricks, it's all in the stones, honestly.
Yes. And we sort of found that with a lot of the research that we've been doing, and that it tends to come down to stone and brick buildings.
And of course, I'm not sure, we can actually probably have a look up to see when the street was actually built, or how old were the buildings built with any particular type of street? Did they ship in stone from Cornwall or Devon, one of the quarries here? Because they often built houses from stone from Devon around the country. And of course, we know that there's a lot of paranormal activity in Devon and Cornwall. I mean, there's huge areas in the moors which basically were quarries. I mean, Princetown, I think, if I remember rightly, where Dartmoor Prison is, it was all built by the stone from locally quarried. And I know that was shipped in London. A lot of the buildings in London are built from, I think, what is it? What's the museum on Trafalgar Square?
The British Museum.
Yeah, I should have remembered that one. That's built out of stone from Devon, from the quarries here. So they shipped it all there for that. So who knows? There could be quarried stone in that building. We should perhaps look into it.
Yeah. And well, the other one that we seem to have a common theme of are buildings that have timbers that were from old ships. That seems to be another one. So stone and wood from old ships tend to be the two common things that we're seeing, and patterns with haunted buildings.
Yeah, I'm just having a look here to see if it was built anything in the. Let's have a look. So it was built in 1740, between 1740 and 1750. It was part of a development for a fashionable residential area of London's elite. It was notable for its not just architecture, but London's most haunted resident. Yeah.
So here's an interesting point about 50 Berkeley Square. So at one point in its history, it was a den of high-profile smugglers who imported and exported various bits of contraband. So therefore, it could have links to people being a bit dodgy and suspect, and like you sort of said earlier about murdering friends and things. Maybe that could have something to do with it. However, the attic walls were coated in lead paint at the time, and obviously we know that lead has links to hallucinations and psychopathic symptoms. So therefore, could it be fumes from the lead paint that's been inhaled and caused these hallucinations?
Could well be. I mean, like I say, lead paint it was got rid of because it had so many ill effects on people. So it was built out of just traditional London stone bricks, so nothing fancy, just with stone detailing. I don't know where the stone but who knows, the stone detailing may have been shipped. But the building itself is just brick, so nothing particularly fancy.
Yeah. But it does seem unusual that the fact that all of the stories of these hauntings, the common thing is this brown mist and also this strange, shapeless figure that they've seen. It's all in the attic, which attics tend to be quite creepy and dimly lit anyway. If it was all lead lined as well, which can have impacts, if you're going in and out of the place, like you said earlier about a maid going in there, then in theory the maid is going in and out of that room quite frequently.
Mm. Yeah. So people, I mean, but then it was a residential attic. It wasn't just like a dirty old loft with cobwebs. From the sound of it, it was actually where people lived. So it was converted into a proper living quarters. Because I know back then you wouldn't waste any space if you could.
No.
So it wouldn't be like a traditional attic as we think of it as some sort of spooky attic. But apparently, even today, there's rumors that security guards won't go there after dark. But it's just rumors. There's no one's actually, and there's a trouble again with modern sightings of things. Unless someone's trying to sell a book, people don't want everyone to think they're mad.
Yes.
So they tend not to. People don't tend to report paranormal things like they used to. It's more UFO alien-y. They're happy to report, but people there's a lot few, and. Is it because of technology? Is it because we can sort of disprove ghosts and not disprove? Sorry, you can't prove them. We can't prove a negative, but we can say there's no evidence of it. That why people are probably less likely to report supernatural, paranormal things like that. I mean, you never hear that anymore. You never hear such dramatic stories of the house was so haunted. I went mad and I can't go to court now. No one's used that as a defense. Very rarely does anyone actually say a ghost has killed somebody that I know of.
No.
I mean, not outside of like cultures that still believe in witchcraft, because obviously around the world you can still be executed legally, by the law for witchcraft. So some places still believe in witchcraft and supernatural to that degree, but that isn't something in this country. Or in the West generally, I guess, since I guess religion sort of not quite a strong hold as it used to have.
And also, like you said about technology, nowadays, most of our entertainment is we're consumers and almost slaves to storytelling. Like we will go and watch films. We've got televisions in our houses that we will sit and watch, and we don't. So nowadays we're more watching and observing and being involved with stories, whereas in the past you would sit round in the pub or sit round with people and share stories, and your entertainment would be sharing a story and talking about stories and discussing them. And I was talking to somebody recently about when you used to sit there and you'd all argue about a fact, and every single person around the table was correct in their own mind. Now that whole discussion around it has now been completely removed, because now you'll go, oh yeah, there was this thing that I saw, and then suddenly somebody gets their phone out. Oh, actually, it was this.
Yeah,
that's it. Conversation over.
But of course, the other thing that stops those conversations, again, I'm going, this is probably trigger warning, political kind of thing, is in the current over the last 10 years. You can't see anything. You can't say something that somebody else might disagree with. So people tend not to touch on any subjects they might think is a bit touchy. And, something supernatural, talking more that something might be a bit religious and might be offended by it. You don't want to talk about it like people used to. We used to be able to sit down and talk about anything, and just like I said, we could sit down, talk about things, have our own opinion. We're all right, but we could still have a great discussion about it. No one's going to fall out, but now everybody seems to be falling out over just conversations.
I'm offended by that, and I'm going to report you and get you cancelled from the podcast. Yeah. Sorry, Steve.
That's exactly. And I think back in the day when people didn't care about that, everyone could just chat, talk, tell stories, make things up. Nobody was going to fall out over a conversation. Nobody was going to punch somebody because they had the wrong political belief, or they had a contradicting religious belief. Everyone would just speak, talk, have fun, have a laugh, carry on having a drink, and go home.
Well, that's what I enjoy about a particular venue that I visit. One of the rules of the venue is mobile phones are banned in the dining area and the bar area, and it's not like it's not a strict rule. You can still get your phone out and send a text if you need to. It's discouraged to have your phone and have phone conversation. But what that leads to is people just sitting and having a conversation and talking about various things. And you can go, oh, did you see this in the news? And everybody then has their opinion of what they've seen in the news. And you end up, and then suddenly you look at the time and about 3 hours have passed and you've gone, oh, cripes, I need to go home now. Because you've been so absorbed in the conversation that's happening that you're not aware of the time passing. Whereas when you are sitting there with your phones out, you suddenly get distracted by whatever's on your screen or whatever, and you are aware of that sort of thing. But we've digressed quite a lot there, haven't we? From a haunted house to being old men moaning about technology.
Yeah, but that's the other thing. I mean, yes, we could say moaning about technology, but I reckon that's why people don't see what they used to see, is because we're so distracted by everything anymore. We're so distracted by so many things.
We are.
It's, you go outside, so many street lights. How can you see a spooky light in an attic window when you see lights everywhere? Back then, of course, if the street was dark, you had a gas light on the street, and that all the lights are off in the house, but there's something weird green light flickering in the loft in the attic window. You would say that's weird, or a brown mist coming out of it. Now you say, oh look, they've got RGB lighting up there. They're obviously doing a podcast.
Yes.
So many things that would have been once upon a time mysterious are now just things of everyday life. You look at the sky and you see things moving all the time, but you got satellites and high altitude airplanes and whatever they would be. So you got so many different things which can be explained. Back in the day, if you were up staring at the lights in 1840 and you saw something fly past and change angle, it would be, well, you wouldn't believe it's a flying saucer. It would be a spirit. It would be a boggart or something. It could be anything. But now we're so distracted. And I think maybe that's why we don't see these things anymore. Why no one tells a story. Because who's going to stay in the loft? You're in your attic room. Something weird happens. You just put a TV on and watch that instead.
Yes.
And then if you don't like it, you go downstairs. Nobody gets themselves locked there now.
And then the ghost is sort of standing behind you, just going, any time today. Come on, look at me. I'm here. Hello.
Got my noise cancelling earpods on. I can't hear him giggling at me.
Yeah.
We're shutting ourselves off to all these different things. But this house sounds amazing. Say it is an office now. I'd love to visit. I'd love to say. I know. Obviously, it's not open to the public anymore. But I would give anything to stay in the attic for a couple of nights. Yeah,
and just see if we do get some of these weird things. Maybe we can take a bell with us and ring it twice if we are in danger.
Just twice. Just twice. Because 3 times, that's not twice. You're on your own. And if anybody finds either one of us fainted on the doorstep, just be warned what you might find in the bedroom. Yes.
And we'll leave that up to the listener's imagination.
Please don't write in or leave any comments to what you think it might be.
Especially the weird ectoplasm that's linked to it.
Oh, Dan, brown mist and luckily green ectoplasm. Yeah, I don't. Ectoplasm it used to be clear, didn't it? It was a clear fluid. It wasn't a green. It was only Ghostbusters that made it green. It was just a clear, sticky fluid that would leak out of the ether. That was ectoplasm back then, wasn't it?
It was.
Let's have a look. Did you know this? Okay, one last thing about the house. The house had a nickname, and the nickname was Bloody Bones.
The house was called Bloody Bones.
The house was called Bloody Bones. It was so infamous, it was called Bloody Bones. The name wasn't to one ghost. The name was basically to the whole collective fear of the multiple spirits within that building. I love that. I love the fact that nobody was too bothered about anyone individually. There was just so many there. So it's the house itself. It kind of, I guess, was like the Amityville house now. You think of Amityville, you think of that house, that classic house, that all the different stories of what happened inside of it. whether true or not, whether just an excuse for murder, because it was used as an excuse. The haunting was used as an excuse for murder, the possession, but the house itself became the character. I can't think of, and that's in popular culture. I mean, what's it like 150 Amityville films because somebody forgot they couldn't, or realized you couldn't trademark the name Amityville because it was a place. So there's so many films about Amityville, but
yeah,
that image of that house is just awesome, and it was just a house that became, the center of everything rather than the spirits within it itself. Yeah. So,
and I have looked at a picture of this house, 50 Berkeley Square, is it?
Yeah.
And it just looks like a generic townhouse in London. So there's nothing weird or creepy looking about it. So.
And what about the attic? Can you see the attic? What's that look like?
I haven't been able to find a picture of the attic. So it would be interesting to know what is there, and if wouldn't it be amazing to be able to go back in time and see what happened between the two sailors, because clearly they both saw something to get them both running to start with.
Yeah. I was going to say, you don't have to imagine that, but the trouble is you've got to do age verification now to find out. It's, but I don't know. I think, yeah, I mean, I love the idea. The one I would love to see is, the guy getting so scared, ringing the bell so many times, then shooting himself because what he saw. I'd love to find out what he found out.
Yeah.
And that was just for a dare. So if anybody who works at or has anything to do with the Bloody Bones house in Berkeley Square and can get us in there for a night or two, please share it, because that would be the best thing ever. Spending a night in the attic with all those stories. And I mean, seriously, that many stories in one, nothing else anywhere else in the building though. That's the thing.
No,
I've looked it up.
Only the attic.
Only the attic. I mean, it's a big attic. It's a proper building, but only attic. I mean, what's it? 5 floors. Classic design. It's got a blue. It does have a blue thingy on the front.
Blue plaque.
Blue plaque. That's it. Wonder what that says. This is the most haunted.
Well, previous Prime Minister used to live there, so it could be.
Okay.
So it could be to say that they lived there, or because it's usually to do with history as opposed to ghosts.
And of course, we all know that there's not been a single British Prime Minister who's gone mad. They're all completely sane and make rational decisions constantly. So, they could have well stayed in the loft and just proved that there's nothing there, because it's obviously not turned them mad.
Now, on that note, have we got anything more to add about 50 Berkeley Square?
I just want to stay. I just want to go stay the night. Oh, it used to have a balcony. No one threw them. Okay, that's a bit weird. It had a balcony, right? So if the maid threw herself from the balcony from the attic, right? Okay, sash windows, yeah, maybe they could jump out. But there's a balcony. They would have landed on the balcony unless they really threw themselves out. And then they would land on those spiky gates. Oh, that's very Amityville. Very.
That's also very dry opening of Casualty, isn't it?
Oh God, yeah.
So somebody climbing up a ladder and there's a spiked railing behind them. And you know for a fact that at some point in the episode, there's going to be a man or whoever's up the ladder going into Casualty with spikes in them because they fell off a ladder.
I never really watched Casualty. Is that still going? Cavity. That's the dentist version, isn't it? Is Casualty still going?
I have no idea. As you know, I don't watch terrestrial television.
Yes, and I haven't watched BBC in decades, so...
yeah.
Yeah, I'd love something to subvert the expectations. The guy goes up the ladder, there's the spiky fence below him, and he slips off and, lands on a cat.
Yes.
And then they have to remove the cat surgically from him. Just absolutely, completely bypassed it. Lands on a child. And it's a child who ends up in hospital.
Yes.
Followed by brown swirling mist.
Or like the classic lorry driver on the telephone, "I'll be home for my tea," and actually it turns out the lorry driver just makes it home for tea.
Yeah,
and is admitted to casualty because he's choked on his tea.
Yeah, or the brakes fail and he actually drives through the front of the house, knocking over the wife in the kitchen who's making the tea, who then ends up in casualty, and he's absolutely fine because he has the lorry that's just driven through the front of the house.
So BBC, if you're listening and you want some writers to start working on Casualty, get in touch.
Yeah, don't get Russell T Davies to do it. Please, don't get Russell T Davies to do it.
Yeah, BBC, if you want some people to write about Doctor Who, get in touch with us, please. Would be interested in helping to be showrunners of Doctor Who.
Yeah, we could subvert any expectations you have, considering what you've done with it already.
But then if it is Doctor Who, Steve can do the writing. I'll be the Doctor. I'd be a great Doctor. Anyway, on that note, we've gone so far away from Berkeley Square now. We should probably wrap up this episode.
The only thing that's carried on from Berkeley Square is the insanity. I think you've been in the attic to think we would ever have a chance at Doctor Who. I know there's 1,000 people out there who could show run Doctor Who and make it the most amazing show ever made. And it's just really weird, like everything else, why people in this unusual era we live in have scraped the bottom of every barrel they could find to produce every bit of pop culture to make it as bad as possible. I mean, look at the creativity and the writings for these ghost stories. I mean, just the creativity. Any one of these stories here would have made a fantastic Doctor Who story. The Doctor turns up, he's chasing the slimy, blobulous, slimy monster that comes out and it goes across the floor, just comes out of a dimension, scares a bloke to death, so he shoots himself. The Doctor has to investigate. Oh man, there's so much. TARDIS lands, scares the maid, and she accidentally falls out the window that she was cleaning and becomes a brown mist ghost. Yeah, and he has to. Yeah. My favourite Doctor Who episodes were Tom Baker in Victorian England were the best, the finest for me. The finest era Doctor Who was Victorian era episodes. The mysteries of that with Tom Baker, just awesome. Loved it. But anyway, we can cut that bit out.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap this episode up then. So we've been in London today at 50 Berkeley Square.
Which I want to say I have checked, and the square is actually a rectangle.
See, I knew it wouldn't be a square. It's never a square. Yeah. I'm yet to see a square that's actually a square.
Yeah. I'm going to get out the Google Earth, have a look at London, see if we can find any pentagrams there. That'd be a good episode. We can find out if there's any any squares built like pentagrams. That'd be quite interesting.
It would be.
Something straight out of Ghostbusters.
Yes. Well, we are the Boo-Foons. If you're not already following us on socials, do find us. You can search for Boo-Foons. We're on every social media platform. Do subscribe if you've liked this episode and you haven't subscribed already. And if you're feeling overly generous, then please do look at our Patreon, where we can then use those funds to probably even visit 50 Berkeley Square and spend the night there. That would be cool.
That would be so cool. Or even better, we could get next door and knock a hole through the wall, and then, without them knowing, spend the night in 50 Berkeley Square. Might need a bit more money though for the insurance.
Yes, and just for the record, if that ever happens, we didn't do it, and it's definitely not recorded in any way, shape, or form. This is not evidence to be used in court.
Yeah, trigger warning.
Yeah. So thank you for listening. I've been Dan.
And I've been Steve.
And that's the end of another brilliant episode of Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye. See you,
Bye.
Dan. Bye.
The Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators. They don't always get it right, but they always get it weird.